footy fans? It's another episode of Donnie's Disposals, and here we have it. Round one of the AFL season has come, it has gone, and we must talk about what has to be a very interesting, exciting, and manic first round of the footy. Joining me today as my co-host, taking over for unfortunately Ross's departure, will be several different co-hosts as the year. Joining me for today, Mr. Rick Shaibani. Rick, nice to joining me from Mexico, of all places.
Yes, I am currently on holiday in Cabo San Lucas, so that's about a two and a half flight south of LA. It's definitely feeling like springtime down here, and of course, I'm always keen to talk footy with you, and glad I could come back as a guest star. Obviously, Ross is still going to be producing. We wish him the best, but yeah, looking forward to it. And wow, what a round of footy! It was epic on pretty much every level. I know starting off with the draw might have been a little anticlimactic, but the rest of the round more than made up for it. So plenty to talk about.
Definitely. So I gotta ask you, you kind of tipped it again. First game was the draw, but thoughts on the rest of the round? Because I don't know about you, but this round had more twists and turns than a roller coaster at a theme park for me.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I think Essendon doing what they did, St. Kilda doing what they did. Of course, your Swans and my Giants both had great wins in different ways. Of course, huge 31-point halftime comeback for GWS in sweltering conditions. 36 centigrade in Western Sydney. That's brutal. The cramping was really taking a hold of everyone towards the end there. But and a few injuries, but hopefully we'll be able to get another win in round two next week against West Coast. Of course, your Swans handle business against the Gold Coast on the road. Again, pretty rough against St. Kilda. They definitely surprised a lot of people there. And of course, we had North Melbourne. Harry Sheezel, obviously we'll get to him later, but my goodness, I mean, 34 disposals in your first game. Take a bow, good sir. And fun fact, former Dragon Dolph Paul who's a good mate of mine, he played junior footy with Harry. So he was super proud of him. And wow, I mean, I don't think there's been a more lopsided rising star nomination in a long time, let me tell you. So
Definitely will not argue with that at all. So real quick thoughts on that. But I think let's go really quickly through each of these games because each of these had its little moments during this round that there's something to talk about with each. And as you said earlier, we start off on Thursday with a draw in a game that honestly I remember going into this game going, this could be one of two ways. Would Richmond get their bounce back? Or is Carlton legit as everybody kind of thought they were going to be? But this result leaves me a little bit in between on both. What are your thoughts on this? Because again, skill wise, at times, but a very entertaining game of footy.
Oh yeah, I think the defensive structures. We know Richmond has a solid back six. We know Carlton is going to be probably pretty solid in the back line as well. Of course, they are missing Sam Walsh in the midfield. They did have some injury concerns in preseason as well. I think Carlton played determined. I think Richmond. You might remember from our last episode, I do think Richmond will get back into the eight, but I really do feel like their premiership window is closed. And at this rate, I mean, drawing with Carlton to start the round at MCG, and again, it was a heavily Richmond crowd. I don't really know. And I watched Access All Areas this morning, and Matthew Lloyd was going through the film breakdown of the final few minutes. So it's always when there's the last 2 minutes and it's going to be a draw, it's so anticlimactic. But he was pointing out a couple of things, and this was more of an indictment of Carlton than an endorsement of what Richmond was doing. But in the final 2 minutes, Lachie O'Brien has the footy. He's on the wing, takes one bounce, takes two, takes three, takes a fourth, almost loses the footy, recovers it again, spears it inside to Mackay. But it's like a 1-on-3 contest. And it doesn't go out of bounds. They don't track the footy inside 50. It's like, what are you doing? And I mean, if you're screaming down the side of the field, and you know this as a coach, of course, like you have to keep your eyes up. You have to know where your target's going to be, and then just have to deliver it. And then in the final few seconds, Carlton gets the clearance. And then Blake Acres drops the mark. Now, Blake Acres, he's a good player. Can he kick it from 55 or 60, which is where that kick would have been? Probably not. But they were in a position where even if it was a behind, they would have won. So the fact that he doesn't take that mark, and Lloydie was breaking down the film, Leah Baker was just going into the guts. And if Akers had taken that mark, Baker would have had egg on his face, basically. So very high risk, high reward. But Akers just has to take that mark. And he takes that mark. And if he kicks even a behind, Carlton wins, and we wouldn't be talking about a draw. So very disappointing from that perspective. Just, I don't know if it was late game fatigue or just, brain fades, but it just, they were very close. Of course, was it Revel who kicked the final goal for Richmond? Yeah, but that was the only goal he kicked. I think Richmond is I think they need to be concerned a little bit about, like, do they really have the consistent firepower that they once did? Yes, Bolton is a gun. Yes, Kachin and Rui and all those guys still have some juice left, but you really do wonder if, like, them trying to be more defensive minded now and just, I don't know if they really can. I don't know if you can count on them to outscore everyone this year. So a lot of things to take away. Obviously, neither side is going to be happy with that. Again, Carlton needs Sam Walsh back. They just do, because he's a difference maker. And if he had maybe gotten that final clearance, and if the kick had been on target and Akers could have marked it again, could have been a very different story.
Yeah, I definitely agree. The other thing I look at it too with Richmond is that you would think on paper, and again, on paper is completely different than on the field, but you look at it, you've got Lynch, you've got Revolt, you've got Cochin, you've got Martin, you've got Shy Bolton. I mean, that's five guys that all can put the ball between the big six at any time that they want to, and they only kick 8 goals in this game.
Sure.
Like it's almost an indictment on Richmond. It's like the midfield was still pretty solid. Again, this was a game that it was very cagey. Like neither team was at their best. Neither team played great footy. There were errors, there were constant brain fades, there were clangers all over. I know it's the first game of the season, but
Yeah.
these guys are professionals. These guys have had plenty of scratch matches and preseason games. I was not expecting the quality of this game to be a little bit down from what it was. The whole Akers thing with Baker, like I watched the Kingy thing this morning too. It kind of shows that Richmond is kind of it's all or nothing type of situation. If Baker gets any kind of a loose ball, this is going in. Richmond
Sure.
most likely wins the game, but he does take the risk that if it gets over his back, it could cost you the game. He got lucky. Akers didn't mark it. So I mean, it's kind of one of those where at film
Yeah.
study, it'll be interesting to see how Dimmer responds. Does Dimmer congratulate Baker because he didn't get burned, or does he kind of go just make sure that you're at least a little bit within earshot of Akers, that if it does get over your head, you can at least make a contest out of it. So fascinating game again. I was left a little bit wanting on this one because I think if you look at it, the result was exactly what it should be. This deserved a tie because it was neither team really dominated this game to where you could go. They should have won. So 2 points each aside, which
Yeah.
leads the rest of the season to be quite interesting, which is then a great transition because we go from 58-58 tie to 125 to 103. That was an absolute shootout as the Collingwood Magpies get over to the defending premiers, the Geelong Cats, by 22 in a game that had a little bit of everything. It had a lot of scoring, it had some crazy defense, it had some booing, it had some great tackles, it had some great goals, and it had some insane injuries, including the one by Jeremy Howe. So
Yes.
we said everybody at Donnie's
Mm,
disposals sends our thoughts with him. I believe he's been released from the hospital. I think it was a compound fracture. I've even heard rumors that it could have been up to
it was
four
horrific.
four breaks in his arm. So hopefully he is back as soon as possible. But the
Gee.
best thing is he was taken care of. And I do have to give, I'm thankfully Channel 7 did not show it any more than the original replay, which is great. But I have heard some people saying that it was
Sure.
replayed on some other places a few more times, which is disturbing at best. But I mean, Rick, this was a
Yeah.
game I sat there and I watched this game and was literally in
Oh,
awe the way this ball was
yeah.
moving. And Collingwood,
Oh, yeah.
I almost agree with Kingy. Did they get better than last year's team?
I mean, it's to quote the great late Yogi Berra, deja vu all over again. How many times did we see last year? Craig McRae's Pies were gutsy win after gutsy win after gutsy win. You can't count those guys out. And I think, more so than anyone, just like flipping a 180 on their reputation in the footy world. I think Collingwood did that as well as anyone last year. And yeah, 86,000 plus fans at the G. I can't remember if it was Lynchy or somebody else doing boundary commentary on that one, but he was saying it was absolutely deafening at ground level. And yeah, the Pies, Bobby Hill had 3 goals. Coxie had a couple. I think Dan McStay, he was pretty quiet, but they know how to use him. He's not going to kick 6 or 7 each game. He was played in a specific center half forward kind of role with Brizzy. He's going to be doing probably more of the same with Pies, taking pressure off Mayachek and Coxie and being a big down there. But yeah, no, I mean, and then the Dacos brothers doing their thing. I mean, they are just so deadly when they're really clicking, and even the reigning premiers, couldn't stop that. And of course, it was very nice seeing the tribute to Selwood. And of course, the Cats did get some good news. Well, not good news, but the Tom Stewart injury looked awful. But it looks like it's only an MCL strain. I saw that either yesterday or today. I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
So no tear. He'll be out 4 weeks. And and speaking of Geelong's defense, I do think what they're doing with Radaglia is pretty clever. He didn't dominate, but he was good in the contest when he was involved. So yeah, I reckon they finally found a good fit for him. I know he only had 4 senior games last year. I know Port Power really tried to go hard at him in free agency, but yeah, he might have finally found a place. So yeah, we'll see if with Stewart being out, can Radaglia really take that big step forward?
I,
So
I mean, I love Vasava's game. Like he was jumping at balls all the time. My only issue is he kind of took DeConing out of what he was really good at last year. So I'm interested to see how Coach Scott is going to maneuver. He's going to have to maneuver it around because if you lose DeConning's ability to intercept marks because you've got Asava Radaglia, you've got 2 guys trying to do the same thing at the same time. I worry that they're going to get in each other's way. The Stewart injury, as you said, it's positive compared to what it was looking like there for a while with the huge brace on it. You were thinking, oh no,
sure,
is he done for the season? 4 weeks is good, but
yeah,
this I think really is a blow that really is going to take a bit for Geelong to kind of recover from because yes, he's out 4 weeks, but
maybe,
then he's probably going to be 5 to 6 before he's fully fit because of the fact he can't really run on a bum knee. So though it's 4 weeks, how will his recovery be in all the there's so many different variables on there, but I just Tom Hawkins
sure.
looked underdone to me. Like that was the other thing that really I'm a little worried. Did they get a little bit seduced with trying to offensively stay with the Pies? That did they bring Tom Hawkins in underdone? I mean, Jeremy Cameron had the little bit of he has a child on the way. Was he going to stay the entire time? And then it doesn't help. Stewart leaves the game. Brandon Parfit comes in as your sub, and he really doesn't do anything. So nothing really worked completely. I mean, Geelong scored points. I mean, I think they're going to do it. They're just
They did. I mean,
incredibly offensive.
that,
But
yeah,
the
that's the
issue I run
shocking
into
thing. I
is
mean, like,
they can't play aerial ping pong like with Collingwood against teams that can score because it's going to cost them if they're going to have defensive struggles. Again, Stewart's only out for a month and a half tops, so that kind of helps because he's their kind of their anchor in the back line. But I'm worried that
yeah.
could the
And
Cats struggle early?
speaking of their anchors, right. Well, speaking of their anchors in the back line, Tui had a couple early goals on St. Patty's Day, and
Hmm.
Stengel had 2 goals. Gary Rowan had a couple. Like, it's so weird because you're just thinking in your head, hang on a minute, this should be working. Geelong, when all of these guys are booting goals and moving the footy well into the forward line, like, what are we missing here? Isaac Smith was best on ground for them. I think it's just a testament to how the Pies just have the never say die attitude under McRae. That they had multiple opportunities, and I think, of course, if anyone's left with the lasting image, it's of Ollie Henry getting a little too cocky, Darcy Moore with the chase down tackle in the goal square, how's that for some captaincy leadership from the big fella? So
Had had
yeah,
had
I
to
think it's
had to admit that that tackle though I had no skin in the game was as a coach was a beautiful tackle because to
oh
literally deny a goal from like 3 meters away from the goal line was is it's reminiscent of a couple of plays last year for Sydney that I remember happening. So it made me chuckle a little bit. I mean, I think Ollie Henry got his a little bit too big for his britches on that one. Again, I understand the booing, but I don't. I'm kind of one of those. I don't really understand it. He wanted to go home. He really wasn't in Collingwood's best side. So, but let's not go
yeah,
into that particular can of worms. So we jump from that one to what some people would say is a game. Could West Coast bounce back from an absolutely horrid year last year? And unfortunately, in their first test to be able to do that with the experience lineup that they had, either Clarko is spinning his magic already or I'm at that point. I question Adam Simpson a little bit because this is an Eagles team that if you look at again on paper is subjective. This is an Eagles side that should have won this game against a scrappy, young, learning a new system Roos team, and the Roos get up by 5, 87-82. Nick Larkey kicks 6 goals, and as we said earlier, Sheasel goes absolutely bonkers on that halfback with 34 disposals, very, very well earned
yeah,
rising star this week. But I tip my hat to Clarko. He got these young boys going, and North gets 4 points right off the
sure.
bat, first game of the year.
No, yeah, absolutely. And Sheasel, Davies, Uniac, all those young kids that have taken their lumps at North and they've been I mean, it's what, like 3 coaches in 5 years. Clarko finally comes in. And no one really knows what to think just because this is a team that's been battered down. They're so young. They've lost so many games. Like, how are they going to respond to a guy like Clarko who's so used to just winning constantly and who's just a legend of a coach? But yeah, I mean, you could tell it was a different vibe, and even more impressively, I mean, Tristan Cherry, who's a mate of mine, he played at Caroline Springs. Yeah, no, he got hurt. Looked like a bad ankle injury. So North was basically playing with no ruck for most of the game. And yes, it was very close. West Coast really tried clawing their way back into it, but North just couldn't be denied. And that's a credit to Sheasel, that's a credit to Larkey. I mean, we've seen Larkey have a big bag of goals before, but and Zerhar had a couple. Those guys have really come on, and I think they've still got plenty of issues. They're still not gonna win a ton of games. I don't think they're still probably a bottom 4 side in terms of talent, but with Clarko, anything's possible. And I reckon that the Roos can at least start off with some confidence. This is something they can build upon and just kind of try to just trust each other more. Because like that's the problem when you're losing so many games. I don't want to say it breeds distrust, but at the same time, it's like no matter how hard you try, it feels like, it's so hard to turn around a program that's used to losing. And we know we can't rely on moral victories. We know that's poison. But I think the Roos are playing with more confidence. And I think they definitely, they're going to be way more competitive this year. I still don't see them getting anywhere near the A. But hey, they got the monkey off their back. They got a nice, gutsy win. And yeah, hopefully that'll get the fans on their feet and they'll start coming back to the footy. And there's going to be more of a positive vibe around Arden Street.
Yeah, definitely agree. I'm one of those. I look at it like this. I think with a Clarko team, they're not going to give up. So I'm almost feeling like we're going to get the vibes with North Melbourne that not of last year, but the year before, when you could count on North is going to give you a test. They're going to test you. They're going to make sure that you have to be willing to go it. You're not going to half-ass and beat them. And that's the one thing that I had to give North Melbourne of 2021 was they made sure you earned your win when you played them. They weren't just going to roll over. They weren't just going to show up and let you beat them by 50. No, this is a team that's going to
Right.
fight. So if Clarko and North bring that, they're going to steal a few games. And I really do say
Sure.
the top 8 sides need to be careful with a team like Essendon, with a team like North, because they're going to be the ones that are going to make or break the finals because they may steal a few games here or there if a team takes them lightly. So I'll be fascinated to see how that goes. Again, big win, but now a ton of questions on West Coast now. I think Adam Simpson's seat, if it was warm, it's getting
Right.
hotter, hotter, and hotter if this doesn't get changed very, very quickly. So we jump from that to one of the other
Right.
surprises of this round, and that is Port Adelaide handing the smacketh down to the Brisbane Lions, who I think a lot of people were very, very high on because of their offseason and because of their preseason games. Port Adelaide with an absolute smashing by 54 over the Brisbane Lions. I wasn't expecting this type of
Yeah.
win,
And
but this didn't shock me that Port gets a win at home because I
totally.
think they're under the pump this year.
Oh, absolutely they are. And they know they can't start 0-5 again, that's for sure. But yeah, they did it off the strike of their midfield. Rosie, Butters, both of them had 23 disposals. Rosie had 6 tackles, and Ali Wines, 29 disposals. So how do you like that? And of course, Jason Horne-Francis, he's getting all the headlines. He's caught some fair criticism, some unfair criticism. But yeah, I mean, like he was very involved, and forced center clearances. He was very involved, not necessarily on the scoreboard, but he was constantly in and around the contest. He definitely, was able to get rid of the footy and get Todd Marshall, Charlie Dixon, all those guys involved. And what about Junior Rioli? I mean, that's another guy like JHF. He needed a fresh start. He got it. Obviously, he has family ties to the Power, to Port Adelaide previously. So, and he's such an excitement machine. If you want a crumbing small forward, someone who can really get the fans on their feet, he might not even be the best Rioli in that category, but he's definitely up there because he's just so quick, so smart with the footy in his hands. And yeah, I mean, like he's definitely gonna be a good fit at the Power. And I think, yeah, I just think, yeah, that they know there's a sense of urgency. They know Ken Hinckley's under the pump. But yeah, I mean, they really made a statement there. And now it's going to be interesting to see, can they really keep that momentum? Because that's been the core historically in the last few years, at least. Like, they're too consistent. They really can't stay healthy. Charlie Dixon, he's got to stay healthy. He's
Uh-oh. Unfortunately, I think I just lost Rick on that. So I'm going to continue and hopefully he can hop back on here. But I'm going to go exactly with him on this. That Port Adelaide I loved their depth in the midfield. I think Jason Horne-Francis was a great addition. And I think we got Rick back. I think we got Rick back there. Stupid internet. So
yeah,
we kind of shifted into that. I'm 100% with you. You got all the way through Rioli before we cut out there. Thankfully, I can think on my feet when it comes to it because the internet is a great and wonderful thing at times. But what I wanted to throw into to kind of go off to add on to it is that the fact that Travis Boak wasn't there. So this really shows the depth of Port
right.
Adelaide's midfield. And then you think about the scary thing is that they add Junior Rioli, so this gives them one more weapon. Orazio Fantasia,
Sure.
kind of quiet, but he can really show up in big moments at times. This, I think, is Kenny Hinckley's shot at the rest of the competition. Pay attention to the Power if they can stay healthy. They laid a marker on what many people thought was one of those three teams, Geelong, Melbourne,
Hmm.
and Brisbane, as the flag guys. Port's kind of going, hey, competition, we
Yeah,
may be legit this year. Again, it's round one. I don't
sure.
like always jumping to conclusions, but they definitely shook a few people's skulls with this one because I don't think
Sure.
anybody saw this margin in this game. Yes, it was at Port Adelaide, but wow, it was
Yeah,
impressive.
yeah, exactly. I didn't watch, or I saw the score. I think I went to bed before or right around halftime, and I figured, oh, it's still pretty close. And then I woke up to see the result. I think, and yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of unsung heroes with the Power. Fantasia is a guy who's definitely an X factor for them, but I'm a big fan of Sam Powell Pepper and Lockie
Mm-hmm.
Jones. Those guys are super versatile players who, Jones had 3 goals himself. And sometimes, last year he was mostly playing halfback flank, moving the magnets around, getting both those guys involved. They've definitely got some good skill sets, and they're great tacklers too. They're very physical players. So I think, just getting that just getting that identity back. Last year, it seemed like Port was kind of going through an identity crisis. And again, we know Hinkley was, under pressure quite a bit. But yeah, let's see if they can keep this moving. Because you're right. If they can sneak into 8, if they can get a home final, watch out. They could be dangerous.
Yeah, they've got the talent, they've got the depth now. The emergence of Butters and Rosie through the midfield, not just being stuck in the front forward half, I think opens them up too because it lets guys like Boak and Wines have a little more time on the bench because let the young whippersnappers take the middle. Let
Sure.
let Horn Francis go into the middle, and it just increases the depth. It's an already really good team that I think they were just so snake bitten last year with injury, and then the 0-5 start put them in a hole that they just couldn't dig themselves out of. So Port was
Yeah.
my team. I was one of the teams I said this year, keep an eye out. I think a lot of people were going to kind of stick last year's performance on this team, and this is a completely different team. And
It
again,
is.
Kenny Hinkley is under pressure this year. I have a feeling with many of the communications I know of in Portland, a grand final is what they want. If they don't get it,
Sure.
unfortunately, I think Kenny Hinkley finds himself unemployed. It's sad to say, as well as he's coached Port Adelaide, but I think he really is in a no-win situation unless he gets to the grand final. So we jump from that one to another performance that the final score shocked me, but the win didn't shock me, and that's Melbourne really handing it to the Doggies by 51,
Ooh.
15, 65 in again another just like Port, a marker game for the competition. Melbourne may be back.
Yeah, and I mentioned on our previous episodes, I could see the D's winning another flag this year. Again, they've definitely been, they're probably best when they have the chip on their shoulder, and it was a comprehensive win. It really was, and Petraka, Oliver, Gone, Grundy, all the usual suspects. They make it look easy sometimes, and I reckon that when those guys are flying on all cylinders, watch out. And I think, of course, Kazi Pickett, 4 goals, but that brutal hit on Bailey Smith that was just uncalled for, as I'm sure everyone has already seen as of right now. He's accepted a 2-match ban. Personally, I was way more comfortable with 3. Very, very lucky that Bailey Smith wasn't either concussed or possibly even a broken jaw or collarbone because he was kind of hit in that
Mhm.
vicinity. But again, just unwarranted. No eyes for the footy, just bumping for the sake of bumping. And yeah, I mean, like it just, even if there isn't a concussion involved, you just need to stamp out the cheap shots. And Kazi Pickett knows better. He's a gun player. He doesn't need to be doing that. But apart from that, Ben Brown, minus the hair, didn't even recognize him. He had 4 goals. Gone had a couple. Grundy was playing his role. Again, he's a guy who's had a fresh start. He seems to be really happy as a D. And I reckon he's going to be a really good 1-2 punch with Maxi Gone. Hopefully they both stay healthy. But yeah, I mean, that was a belting. And I think the doggies really, really, really have some issues at the moment. More than one person was saying, why is their starting 22 so tall? They had so much tall timber on the ground. Liam Jones got hurt, possibly like a scary neck injury, maybe.
He
And,
avoided that, thankfully. He no super bad damage. I did hear that. I don't think he should be out super long. He'll be out a little bit. I know at
sure.
least a couple of weeks, but he avoided any serious neck injury. Completely agree with you. I said going into the offseason, I said I worry that Lob was the worst possible pickup because you're already tall and you have zero forward pressure last year, and you got taller and even less forward pressure in Rory Lobb.
And now Lob's hurt.
And
He
now
hurt.
Lob's hurt. So it's almost like they
Yeah.
signed a guy. It's almost kind of a waste. And then you still you're almost uh, how to say this nicely, stubborn. I'll just say it. I think their coach is stubborn. He stubbornly put Luke Darcy's son up forward when he
Yeah.
probably should have had him at center half back and let him be that intercept marker, let him play the ball against a team that, I mean, after Ben Brown isn't a super tall forward line, so you can let him
Yeah.
have a little fun and be that intercept marking guy. So I just
Yeah.
I really feel like the Duggies were the Duggies were set up in this game to fail because they just did not match up well. Even with Stephen May's exit and not being in this game, the D still played
That's what I was going to
super
say.
good
Like,
defensive footy.
that's what I was going to say. Like, how do you only kick, what was it, 9 goals, 11 the doggies
Hmm.
had? Yeah, how do you only kick 9 goals, 11 on a Melbourne team with no Stephen May? That boggles my mind. And I think, and also just like with the injuries, Melbourne's going to get stronger, dogs are going to get weaker because not only is Law going to have to have an ankle surgery, Cody Waitman hurt his groin, he's out 3 weeks, and
Hmm.
now for the D's, they're playing Brisbane next week at the Gabba. Stephen May is hopefully going to be back. Same with Bailey Fritsch, Jack Viney, and Christian Salem.
Yep.
Simon Goodwin was saying in post game that they're probably all going to be back for next week. So Melbourne could get even
Scary.
more dangerous, and the doggies could fall even further just based on injuries.
Yeah.
So
It's
very
just
concerning. Very concerning if I'm a doggy supporter right now.
and a scary D's team. Think about adding four guys to your top 22 that are Premiership players. That's a
Oh, 100%.
scary thought process. But again, I think we kind of knew the D's would have a good shot of winning this game. I was just not expecting Beverage to just utterly bugger this one completely in so many ways. Again, I don't like bashing coaches because as a coach myself,
Right.
I we don't always know everything, but I just feel he got his tactics and his selection wrong, and he paid for it. And unfortunately, so we jump from that game to a game that let me don my red hat for just a bit because I want to have a little bit of fun with this because I'm going to don it right now. A competition, did we go away? I don't think the Swans went away. And some people would say, "Oh, it's only Gold Coast." This is a Gold Coast team that legitimately, on its day, will be a headache for this competition. I did not, in our preseason thing, say that this Gold Coast, as my bold prediction, Gold Coast will make the finals
I can see
because
them
I
doing that too.
honestly
Yeah.
still think they can do this. I just think the Swans literally, they kept hearing this entire offseason, they're going to choke. They're going to choke. They're not going to come out as well. They're not going to do this. Every team since 1995 that's been beaten by 40 points in the grand final hasn't done as well the next season yet.
Right.
I'm like, this Swans team has such a different group than probably most of those teams. You look at GWS, they were an older side with a ton of talent.
Right.
They were not at their they were not in their youth before their prime. This Swans team, a ton of 25 and younger players that are
Yeah.
only getting better. And again, another huge pressure game in sweltering heat, just like GWS.
Yeah.
Sweltering, I mean, it was almost like a wet weather footy game. And
Oh, yeah.
Sydney
Yeah.
puts up 110, has a pressure rating of 219 in this game. The
Yep.
competition needs to understand they were young. They faced a really good Cats team. They're ready to go. I'm fascinated because, again, this Swans team, a little bit like Melbourne, a few guys from that grand final team not in. Robbie Fox is still out.
Right.
Sam Reed is still injured. So
He is.
it'll be fascinating to see the Buddy Hole situation. We'll talk about that a little bit later. I'll give my
Right.
opinion on it because I've had a few discussions with the people online, and with many of them, I agree in many ways, but the reason that it happened is one that really frustrates me. But we'll talk about that later. Suns, I
Sure.
just think they came out flat, and it really burned them when the Swans picked up the pace. They had a couple of times they scared the
Definitely.
Swans early in the second quarter. They went kind of bunta on the Swans, and they kind of and the Swans went, oh yeah, we're Sydney, and
Mhm.
then it was right back to it, and then they just kind of they wore the Suns down as that game went on to the point where mid fourth quarter until the Suns were just like, let's just get this over with, and so
Yeah, it was very comprehensive. And yeah, I mean the Swans, I still had them making the eight, we know they're a very well coached team. We know they're usually pretty disciplined. If they stay healthy, I definitely think they could be top four. Again, your guys, Chad Warner, 30 touches, Luke Parker, 25, Errol Goulden, 24. And yeah, I think that they spread the footy around. They have an energetic, fast-paced style of play, and yeah, again, horrifically humid conditions, but they hung in there. And I think, and it is puzzling because Stewie Dew actually has a pretty good record at upsetting the Swans, either at home or on the road in his tenure. So yeah, really disappointing from the Gold Coast. I do think they can bounce back, and I do think the Swans can keep this momentum going. But it's just a question of I think there's definitely are the Swans deep enough? Yes, they've got a ton of young talent, You're right. They've drafted very well. They have great academy kids coming through the system. I definitely think, that their pressure style, their style of moving the footy is going to be really successful. But I think it's just a question of, is this going to be consistent form throughout the year? Because Sydney kind of has a tendency of, like being up and down and then really catching fire towards the end of the year. And we know footy's a game of momentum. We
Mhm.
know that it's anyone's flag in September because it depends on which team gets hot at the right time. I do think the Swans are definitely still are capable of making a run. Buddy Franklin again. I know you want to talk about it, but it wasn't in the same vicinity as Causey or as Shane McAdam for the Adelaide Crows. But again, it's just clumsy. It's sloppy. Buddy should know better. Just go for the footy on the boundary line. You don't need to
Mhm.
whack a guy. You just go for the footy, keep it in bounds, then go on your merry way. So I think, yeah, a one game ban plus a fine. Or wait, did he get fined?
I don't believe so. I know he got one game. I
I'd
think we'll
prefer if it was both.
we'll discuss this because I may be a I may be a red glasses Swans fan, but
Oh yeah, you're totally yeah.
I've had a few discussions with a few Swans fans, and I've pointed out a few things that honestly that I think some people would be surprised when they said, because I know I hear it all the time. But he's a protected player, just like Hodgson. And when you see results like this, I can 100% understand. Like I said, we'll talk about that in just a bit. That's in my headlines burning questions a little bit later. So now
Right.
we go from that one to, you, sir, are a huge GWS fan, and as you kind of crowed about, I mean, pardon the pun here. I mean, the Giants with an incredible comeback against the Crows
Oh
team
yeah.
that honestly, I I'll raise my hand. I got seduced a little bit by their preseason form because I tipped the Crows in this one, and the Giants get the win. And
Oh
again,
yeah.
sweltering midday heat in Sydney to the point where so many players were cramping, but a 16-point win. I mean, my hat off
Yeah.
to the GWS Giants in this one.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first quarter was as flat as you'll see, and it was really discouraging given that again the preseason was positive, the early returns on Kingsley is definitely the right man for the job. He
Hmm.
comes from the Richmond system. He was a Premiership player at Port. What was it, 2004 when they won the flag, something like
Yep.
that.
Yep.
But yeah, no. So I think they definitely hired the right man for the gig. But no, yeah, it was an incredible comeback. Again, 31 points down. Toby Green was doing Toby Green things, 4 goals too, I believe it was. And I think Adelaide, second quarter, they were still dominating the pressure. Giants just weren't getting the forward entries they needed. I was just pulling my hair out there. But it, how many times do we see this? Pros don't kick accurately. I'm not picking on the pros, but think about any team that has a big lead, but they
Hmm.
keep missing. That always leaves the door open, and the Giants took advantage. And Harry Himmelberg might have taken the mark of the year in round
In round
one.
one.
And I did see, speaking of tall timber for the Giants, Braden Bruce, they were worried that he might have a season-ending back injury, but it looks like the specialists are giving him the okay, and he's going to be back sooner rather than later. So yeah, that's a positive. And just Canelio is back. He had a phenomenal game. Tom Green, I think he had 29 disposals. He might be a sneaky Brownlow favorite if he keeps that form up. He was one of our few bright spots the last year. And Lockie Ash had some moments. Nick Haynes had a big goal. It's always fun seeing the big defender get a goal. And
Hmm.
speaking of defenders, hopefully we can get Phil Davis back in the next few weeks. I know he's getting up there in age, and they want to be cautious with him if at all possible. But yeah, no, as the game went on, the momentum shifted, and we had a bunch of kids who really put their hands up and started really applying the pressure and getting some nice shots at goals. So I'm pretty optimistic. And hey, getting Brent Daniels back was huge. I actually got a
Hmm.
chance to meet him Toronto before he left for Richmond. They actually stopped by the grand final party in LA, so that was pretty cool. I got to meet some of them last year. Callum Brown was there. A few other Giants players were in LA at the time, so that was pretty special. But no, yeah, I think there's definitely a chance that they'll be able to. We know they still have plenty of talent on the list. Can they push for the A? Probably not. But the expectation should be, to compete every single game, to have a chance to win, and to, hopefully be able to get more of a home field advantage because, again, sweltering conditions, but still a decent turnout, all things considered, for GWS. So if we can get more butts back in the seats now that we're winning more games, then I reckon we can surprise some people this year. So very encouraging signs. Again, Canelio, Green, or both Greens, Tom and Toby, really, really firing on all cylinders. So I think there's a lot of positives. And Admin, our draftee, 6 goals in the VFL. So we're going to have to see if maybe he can push for an AFL debut. Again, we've got West Coast on the road next week, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I think there's a great chance that we could start off 2-0 and be able to build some momentum.
Good start, definitely in the grittiness, the fact that Kingsley,
Yes,
I saw the kind of after game chat in the way he kind of pumped his guys up, saying it was one of the grittiest wins. Is you got to give it to him.
totally.
I completely agree with you. I think he was an absolutely fantastic hire, and I think it's the perfect the ability to maybe bring back that orange tsunami. It would be fascinating to see.
Sure.
I really want to see them win some games because, as we said, we just need more butts in the seats at Giant Stadium because it's hard
Sure.
to see a team that's got a ton of talent and a team that I think they're going to go through a little bit of a changeover here with the change
Yeah.
to Kingsley, but they just need support from Western Sydney, and I'm hoping that it happens because
Right.
there's a ton of talent to be very very positive over on the western
Yeah.
side
And,
of
and
the
I think
Harbor City.
right, and I also just think like AFL administration is it might have taken them a little too long to admit it, but I think they've silently admitted that and you and I of course know this. All four, two Queensland teams, two New South Wales teams, they're always going to be difficult jobs, whether you're winning or whether you're losing, just because again they're not traditional footy states. A lot of times you get the fair weather fans, and
Hmm.
my mate Simo, who was born in Hunter Valley in New South Wales, grew up in Sydney, and only picked up footy when he was a young man living in Canberra. But yeah, he's a Swans guy, and he was saying that even to this day, a lot of your average Sydney siders, they know Buddy Franklin, they don't know many other players. So
Hmm.
it's always difficult to get those really loyal, consistent supporters and to get those fans to show up, just because like rugby is always going to be the biggest draw card, even if the NRL crowds are pretty pathetic these days. It's just there's a higher concentration of teams in New South Wales and Queensland. There always will be. So those are always going to be tough jobs. And I think everyone knows that. But yes, Kingsley has done a great job so far. And I'm excited to see what we can continue to do under his watch. As for the Crows, they're still young, but they really, really need to take that big step forward and at least be within striking distance of the finals. I think they can get there this year. I know they've extended Matty Nix for, I believe it was 2 years,
Hmm.
something like that. So he's not in any serious jeopardy as of yet, but they really need to just be more consistent and take a bigger step forward. Isaac Rankin, of course, was a big free agent pickup, but he kicked 2 goals 5 on the weekend. He's definitely had some accuracy issues. He's a fun player. He's got great speed. He can tackle, but as we know from his time at the Suns, he's just not quite consistent enough. And
Hmm.
for a top 5 pick overall, his career has been kind of up and down so far. So I reckon that there's still time for Adelaide to turn things around, but this kind of loss is going to sting, and they just need to be able to ignore it, get back to training this week, and focus on who they've got coming up next, which is, I can't
Richmond.
remember who they have next.
Richmond.
They're playing Richmond.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough.
But at
That's
home, but at
tough.
home. And yeah, the old
Yeah,
confines of Adelaide Oval may help them. But again, that was a
yeah,
tough one. That was a tough one, I think, for Adelaide, because I think there's probably a few people in the tricolors that were probably hoping they could get steal one over in Sydney and start off 1-0 with
sure.
Richmond coming into town for sure. So that one stung a little bit. So
Yeah,
we jumped from the sweltering of Sydney to, I have to say this, a game that I was very intrigued because there's two teams that I think for a lot of this offseason has been discussed as bottom four sides. And I mean, Essendon, are we seeing the Essendon that we saw 2 years ago, the high scoring, hugely energetic, fascinating Essendon Bombers get the win by 59, 124-65? But I worry that is this a little bit of a mirage because this is a Hawks team that literally shipped out most of its experience in this
Yes.
offseason to really kind of, I think they've turned the page. And many Hawks fans that I talk with, I think they've kind of admitted to themselves they're going to go young, they're going to
Yeah.
deal with a little bit of pain this year. But even I was a little shocked at this result because I
Oh
look at
yeah.
last year's Essendon team that had trouble scoring. They had Peter Wright go down with a shoulder injury that looks to take him out of what could be up to half
James
of this
Stringer too.
season.
He's out.
Stringer's hurt, but
Yep.
for them to put up 124 points in this round was impressive. But
Oh yeah.
the biggest one of all, Walla is back.
Yes.
Anthony McDonald, Tippin, Woody, the excitement machine is back
Oh
on a footy field playing for the Bombers. I may not be a Bombers fan, but even I
yes.
smiled when I saw that ball go
Who
through the
didn't?
big sticks for Walla. I have to give it to him.
It
Thank you,
was something
Walla,
like
for coming back.
I think it was 500 plus days since his last footy match. And yeah, I don't know if anyone's heard the story, but allegedly it was so wholesome. Allegedly, Tippa just took a road trip with his dog all around Australia last year, and wherever he went, whether it was little indigenous kids in the bush who said he had inspired them, or if it was just regular footy fans in the suburbs of Perth or Melbourne or wherever, they were just like, I mean, Tippa's a hard man to miss with the
Mm-hmm.
with the smile. You know, he's a great bloke, and everyone loves him. And yeah, he said that was all the inspiration he needed to come back. And I know I think he had some some personal struggles and
Mm-hmm.
some stuff that I'm not privy to speak about. But he's a great character kid. He's still pretty young. He's I think he's my age, 28. So yeah, he's a guy who can get the fans on their feet, and you better believe when he came out in the final quarter when the game was well in hand, the roar was impressive. And
Mm-hmm.
I know there were some concerns about his fitness. That's to be expected since he's spent almost a year away from the system. But no, yeah, that was amazing to see. And another young kid, Alan Davey Jr., getting his
Mm-hmm.
first career goal. He's kind of cut from the same cloth as Tippa. Of course, he's the son of an all-time great at Essendon. So yeah, small forwards galore. They've got some talent up there, and I also am really impressed with the two Sams, Wiedemann and Draper. They both had two
Mm-hmm.
goals apiece. We know Draper is just a freak of an athlete. He's got a great mullet. We know he remember last year when he kicked that goal on the run, and
He's
how
an
often you see
excitement
that.
machine for sure.
Oh yeah, and I think both of them are really. Wiedemann is a great fit, and of course he brings that Premiership experience that Essendon desperately needs. So
Mm-hmm.
it could be fool's gold. We've seen this movie before. No one will be convinced until Essendon actually gets back to the A and finally breaks that drought. But Brad Scott, he is not washed up. He still knows how to coach footy. They've got some young talent, and they've got some Archie Perkins. Very happy for my fantasy
Mm-hmm.
side that he kicked 3 goals. But yeah, they've got him. Of course, Jordan Ridley. And of course, I've mentioned in the past Darcy Parish. I think he had something like 28 disposals. He is very underappreciated, and I think he's one of their biggest bright young stars right now. And let me see, Zach Merritt got best on ground, but Parrish
Mm-hmm.
was runner up against the Hawks. And Hawthorne, you're right. I think the Hawthorne fans, they know it's rebuild mode. They're the youngest side in the competition this year. CJ, he's amazing. They've
Mm-hmm.
got Chad Wingard. I know. I think he tweaked his calf late in the game, so hopefully he can get back soon. But they've got CJ. They've got some other young kids. Lockie Bramble, another
Will
guy who's on
Day.
my
Will
favorite
Day
team.
down back is another one that I think is going to be fun. They, they,
If he
they're
can
they're
stay healthy, if he
they're
can stay
really,
healthy, I love Will Day, but he just can't stay healthy. So
yeah.
I hope those guys can. Again, they're probably going to take their lumps. They're probably going to be a bottom four side again. Sam Mitchell, we know he's the right man for the job just because he's a flag winner there. He's a legend at Hawthorne. His legacy speaks for itself. But Carl Amon, he was a good pickup in free agency. He got a goal for them, but
Mm-hmm.
they know they need to commit to the long term rebuild. And I think they're smart enough to be able to kind of navigate that. But at the same time, it won't be pretty this year, I'm afraid. And will the Bombers be able to do this every week? Don't know. But I definitely think they're probably going to pull off a few upsets this year, and again, maybe they'll get within sniffing distance of the 8, But in terms of realistic expectations for Essendon fans, they're probably in that, 7 to 9 win margin. They're
Hmm.
not going to be embarrassed, but they're still definitely reloading. So we'll see what happens. I think they've always had individual talent. That's the problem with Essendon. That's why it's so frustrating to watch them. The Bombers have always had individual talent. They just can never put it all together. So I think, Brad Scott still has plenty of work to do, but I think the culture he's installing there is going to be pretty good.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be fun to watch this Bombers team because again, it's when they face that top eight side, the Collingwoods, the Sydneys, the
Yeah,
Melbournes, the Geelongs, then we kind of see what really is there. I mean, Coach Scott is not he's not no he's no dummy. I mean, what he did at North Melbourne is nothing to sniff at. He had lists
it
that
looks
were not
great in hindsight
nearly
now what he did at North.
nearly as talented, not nearly as
Yeah,
talented as some of the teams that he did, and he got him into finals. So imagine the talent that he's got, the merging talent of Darcy Parish, and then some of the overall
sure.
skill. Nick Cox is still hurt, the lanky midfielder that I think
Yeah,
he's going to be an absolute jet as he kind of fills his body out. It'll be fun. Again, this was one of those. It's first game of the season. You're super happy for the Bombers Nation because of last year and their
yeah,
entire off season being nothing but a giant, and I'll say it, shitstorm that was the Essendon Footy Club. So this
yeah.
this gives some positive at the hangar for sure. We'll have to see how round two goes.
And
And
I think just kind of like the Clarko effect at North,
mm,
Essendon players are having fun again. They're having fun, and I think that's a testament to Brad Scott just trying to enforce the discipline, enforce the accountability, the physicality, all those coaching buzzwords that you're well familiar with, of course, Donnie. But they're just having fun. I'm sure those guys are. Yeah, they're coming up to the hangar. They're rocking up. It's a good vibe. Players are excited to get in the gym. They're excited to get on the ground. Will that continue? Hopefully. Will that result in a bunch of wins? Probably too premature, but they're not where they were either. So I think that they're going to get closer, but still no cigar for the Bombers. But stranger things have happened, so we'll see how it goes in round two.
there's always something. There's always some twist and turn that we'll have to see. And then we
Very
jump to
true.
the last one that I mean, honestly, I came into this one thinking this is going to be interesting. A Fremantle team that I can't put my finger on, and a St. Kilda team that literally, as we were discussing in our fantasy draft a couple of weeks before, an injury list that looks like an ER's thing. They had 14 guys
Yeah,
on the injured reserve. They had there was a guy on their forward line that I think was working construction or something
yeah,
3 weeks before this season starts. And Ross the Boss gets a win in his re-debut at the Saints over his former club, the Fremantle Dockers, by 15, in a game
yeah.
that score wise unimpressive. But
Mm,
I gotta give Ross the Boss 14 guys out and to pull out a win.
agreed.
I have to tip my cap. A heck of a coaching performance in that one. But it does make me go, did Fremantle lose too much from last year's team with the Exodus, Griffin Logue, Blake Acres, some of the guys that moved? They bring in Luke Jackson, but he can't fix every hole that
Mm.
off-season Exodus produced.
I'll tell you one thing, Donnie. Like this was emblematic of the Dockers' day. You probably saw it, but Nat Fife, we know he's been talked about to death over the summer, or
Hmm.
the Southern Hemisphere summer. But yeah, no, it's been talked to death. Where do they put him? He's not going to be a midfielder anymore. But nothing but grass in front of him. There was nobody in the vicinity. There was no way he could kick it from 70 meters, and eventually he gets pinged and run down by Callum Wilkie. So that was kind of emblematic of how Frio's day went. I know Justin Longmuir was just very, very disappointed, as he should be. And I think you're right. Luke Jackson is going to turn out great there, but you're right. He's not the only one. And I think with the talent they have on that list, the Dockers definitely they were prepared to take the next step up because they got back to finals last year. They're still pretty young, but they've drafted well, and I think they were really expecting to come out of the gate firing on all cylinders, but it just didn't happen. But you're right. Full credit to Ross the Boss. Everyone loves him. He's a great personality. He's a great character for the game, and he's
Yeah.
still got it. as far as coaching is concerned. I'm sure plenty of St. Kilda fans were like, Ross Lyon again. Are we sure about this? But I think they've done a great job. And speaking of drafting, St. Kilda of all clubs, they've drafted surprisingly well. Mitch Owens had a few goals.
Hmm.
I've been impressed with Wangani Malira
Hmm.
in his limited minutes. I think he needs to put on a few more kilos if he wants to really survive in the AFL. But he's got a ton of talent. I think their debutant, of course,
Matthias
Philippou.
Philippou. Yep, the South
Philippou,
Australian
great.
from Woodville West Torrens made his debut and played very
Yeah,
very well. I was impressed. I
he
was impressed
did.
with the young South Australian for sure. It
Oh
was
yeah,
fun. Again, I almost kind of chalked this one up a little bit like Essendon. I'm worried that the opponent may have given us a little bit of false hope here. I really
same,
came in this
same.
year. Fremantle was my another enigma team, a little bit like Collingwood. I was not 100% sure what we're going to get. Collingwood
Yeah,
showed us they're going to be exactly like last year, but almost turned up to 12 instead of just 10. And Fremantle this year again, all the losses. Yes, Luke Jackson comes in,
yeah,
but Lobb is gone, so you don't have that stable thing. Taberner can do it, but he's not consistent enough. Jackson's really not a full forward. He's a ruck, almost midfielder. You almost want to put him on the wing. And then it's like after that, again, the problem that Fremantle has had, no matter who their coach is goal kicking has been their absolute
yeah.
Achilles heel, and it rears its
Right.
ugly head. Again, it's maybe the confines of Optus Stadium will help them figure it out. I gotta give Longmuir. I think he'll figure it out, but this
Yeah,
could be a
yeah.
season. I worry that is Fremantle the team that was in the eight last year that takes the tumble because they did lose so much from last year. So
I think
great round review.
yeah. One more thing with
Go
that,
ahead.
I think Fife, Taberner, and Josh Treacy combining only for 2 goals and one mark inside 50. That is
Hmm.
appalling. And I
Hmm.
think, and I know Liam Henry, he's a good small forward. He actually played on the wing, had 21 disposals, 6 score involvements. He was good. Frederick was good. He had a goal. Brennan Cox was great down back. But yeah, I mean, St. Kilda just kept coming, and it was to Frio's credit. We don't want to dump on them too much. It wasn't a blowout. They were definitely still in it. They even still had a lead in the third quarter. But I mean, yeah, the Saints just kept coming at them. And another guy that St. Kilda was really able. Again, they've drafted pretty well the last few years, but also another guy they got on the cheap from North Melbourne, Mason Wood, a few years
Hmm.
ago. He had a couple beautiful snap banana type goals around the body that were really impressive off the left foot. And Jack Higgins, he's been criticized a lot because he's really an all or nothing player. Even dating back to Richmond, he's very much an all or nothing player. But if he can be consistent, if Mason Wood can do his thing, and if Philippou, if he can really contribute and be a consistent goal kicker, all of a sudden Max King being out for a little while longer might not be the worst thing in the world. So I think St. Kilda has some potential. I still view them overall as a pretty middling side. They'll probably, I think I picked them to be like 10th, 11th on the ladder this year. So I don't see them pushing for finals, but Ross Lyon is proving the critics wrong. And he's still got it as a coach, much like Brad Scott does. And I think, if they can just build more team chemistry for now until they get all those injured pieces back in, then they'll really be in business. So if St. Kilda can overachieve and stay healthy heading forward, I think they've got some potential.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating to see how it goes. Again, we've got 22, 22 more rounds of footy still to go. So
Exactly.
we jump from our round reviews to yeah, I've got some questions, sir, and I'm interested to see how you look at this because I went through each of the days and had a question that kind of popped into my head that I was interested to see what you thought. I'm one of those, maybe I fell for it a little bit too, is Carlton and Richmond were two of the hype teams over this offseason. Taranto and Hopper coming into Richmond, Carlton again
Yes.
falling that point one whatever short or 1 point short of the finals last year that got the doggies in.
Yeah.
They've been the hype teams this all offseason besides Brisbane. It was the hype bluster or it was or was it one of those where it's first game of the season we're going to kind of wait on it because I'm a little worried that maybe these teams are a little more hype than they are actually being legit.
I think you're probably right on both of those, Donnie. And again, Carlton, again, just like with Essendon, we go through this every year. Like everyone hypes them up, and then eventually they just disappoint, either through injuries or sheer bad luck or poor coaching. The Blues just are so snake bit. They're just so snake bit, and they have a ton of talent. It's not a question of talent anymore. It's not a question of experience. It's just so mystifying as to why they can't really put it all together. And again, with someone like Richmond, I think it's with someone like Dima Hardwick, and to a lesser extent with their gun players, who credit to them. Of course, they have the flags. I don't have the flags. I understand that like talking crap about Richmond might be useless, but I their premiership window's closed. I mean, I don't see any other way around it at this point. Like yes, Tom Lynch can still kick five goals per game, but is that really enough? Cochin is well past his prime, and I think Shea Bolton has done well. I think that some of their young draftees like Cumberlander had some flashes last year. I think Liam Baker is still a great player, and they've still got, and Robbie Tarrant, of course, at fullback is a guy that he's been through the wars, he's experienced, he knows what to do, but I feel like it's almost like Emperor's New Clothes. Everyone's just assuming they're gonna get into the finals and be a flag contender just because they're Richmond and they've done it before. And of course, Geelong is kind of like redefining what it means to be an old list where the premiership window is still open, or at the very least, you can force it open. You can pry it open just through sheer guts and determination. I don't know if Richmond has that. And I think the biggest concern is, again, yes, Hopper and Taranto, add them to the mix. I know they're gun players. Everyone knows they're gun players. But the fact that they were added to the mix and then a draw with Carlton where they only score 58 points, that's pretty alarming if you're Richmond. And I don't know. I mean, I think that that they're still capable of. Craig Wessels says it's kind of like the wooden stake into the vampire's heart. Richmond is never truly down and out until you guarantee they're down and out. But it's hard for me to see a scenario where they can really rip off another amazing run and win another flag, or even get to a prelim maybe, because last year they didn't get to a prelim, and I don't know. I think they might need to kind of admit it and throw up their hands and say, yeah, we know Cochin's going to retire soon. We know Rui is going to retire soon. Let's rebuild. We've still got Tom Lynch. We've still got Shea Bolton. We can still be competitive as we rebuild, plus with Hopper and Taranto and maybe some future free agency additions. Who knows? But I don't know. I just don't see it. I think Richmond is still going to be really well coached. I think they're really going to be a tough side for whoever goes up against them this year. But I really don't think they have that it factor this time. What can I say?
It's very interesting. I think there's one player that you didn't mention that I think is the reason why Hopper and Taranto were brought in, and that's Dusty Martin. I like legitimately
Exactly.
with Dusty Martin being in the twilight of his career again, guy absolutely fantastic for those years. I mean,
Yeah,
he
of
was
course.
probably the best player in the entire competition, hands down.
He's up there,
Absolutely
yeah.
nobody arguing that. But Dusty played the majority of that game going forward. And again, Dusty has always been an absolute sniper. When he gets it, he can put it through. And as you stated, only 8 goals from a combined Lynch, Rewalt, Dusty Martin, Shea Bolton. That's two apiece. That's not going to get it done. That's not a recipe for success. And it's not the same manic pressure that everybody starts panicking on, because they are a little bit aging,
Yeah,
and they were also a victim of their own success, because so many of those players from those winning sides, Ellis, Butler, it's Higgins, so many of those guys that were great
sure.
pressure players find themselves in different uniforms because teams are going to be willing to pay overs to get them out of Richmond, because Richmond couldn't afford
Yeah.
to keep them with Dusty and Conchin and then eventually bringing in Lynch. So
Yeah.
I,
You're spot on. You're
I, I,
spot on.
I
And I
completely
think
agree with I completely agree with you. I think their window may be closed. They're not going to just roll over, but
right.
I worry a little bit that a lot of people they're still a little bit, shall we say, seduced by
Yeah.
19, 20, by 17, 18, 19,
Yeah.
20. Those years when Richmond, when they got going, you knew you were in trouble. This is not the same Richmond team. They are completely different side, just
Yeah,
even um, positionally, let
sure.
alone with the players that are now donning the Richmond Guernsey, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I think, and you're right, you're spot on, Donnie. I think, yeah, like the manic pressure in 2017, really took everyone by storm. That was the biggest reason they won the flag. And of course, got two more flags in the next several years. But everyone expects it. I don't think I'll probably regret saying this, but I don't think Dimma can pull the rabbit out of his hat in the same way and be like, oh, we're going to change up our game style this way to where you can't defend us again. Everyone's used to it, man. You know what you're
Everybody
going to
does
get.
it. So
Yeah,
many
you know
teams have
what you're going to get when
adopted
you
it.
play the Tigers, and that is not a good thing. So I think, and also just look at their schedule or their fixture. Again, they've got Adelaide coming up, but then the Pies, the Doggies at the MCG, the Swans, Melbourne. And then they get a little bit of respite with Gold Coast and West Coast, but then they've got Geelong. So I think they could easily be a 500 team by the end of the first month. So I think they're in a real minefield right now. And again, Richmond surprised us before, and they could potentially do it again, but I just don't see it. And also, just I don't think they have the depth this year. I really don't think they do. Like if they have three or four catastrophic injuries, they could really plummet, I think.
I
And
I don't
and
even think
again,
it's three. I think it's a couple. Like if you lose a
yeah,
Lynch, like Lynch and Dylan Grimes are the two people that I honestly think are their absolute. They would be devastating to lose those because Grimes is
yes,
your anchor and back, and Lynch is your big heavy forward. Which, again, I find it fascinating. In 17, they didn't have a big heavy forward. They had Rewalt, who was a very
right,
active, smallish full forward, and then a
right.
ton of little ants that just natted the crap out of you. Teams
And
have
also, I
really,
think it's also worth mentioning. I think, and I mean, I wasn't behind the scenes. I don't know this for a fact, but I reckon that Josh Caddy's sudden retirement really caught them off guard. I
I agree.
don't think they were prepared for that, and I think and in terms of a guy like Marlon Pickett, yes, he's a great story. Yes, he's had a couple of great seasons, but does he really have that killer instinct and that killer style of play? Of course, he was playing out of position as a rock a couple of years ago. They really weren't sure where he would go and how he would fit. And he's gotten suspended a few times, which hasn't helped. So I mean, I think guys like that, and Noah Cumberlander, he had a few great games, he had a few awful games. So I think I really wonder how they're developing those young players, other than Shai Bolton, who's been a great success story. Sydney Stack flamed out. They had Coleman Jones moved on. Their draftees have honestly not panned out. So, and a lot of people want to say, like, oh, that's a victim of their success. They were picking last in the draft typically. So therefore, they weren't able to. But come on, we know Richmond can scout talent. We know there's so much talent in their backyard, in their VFL squad. It's just I really don't think their system is as compelling as it used to be. It's almost like, and this might actually be a great comparison. Think about the New England Patriots. For
Mhm.
years, of course, they had Belichick and they had Tom Brady. They could get scrap heap players who were either low draft picks or free agents on the cheap, and say, hey. If you can you'll have to take a pay cut here, but you'll play with Tom Brady, you'll play with Bill Belichick, and you're guaranteed to get a Super Bowl ring. Great. What do you have to lose? Richmond can't sell that same type of vision under Dimma anymore. And I think that's just part of the star fading as the Premiership window closes. Are they going to be wooden spooners? Of course not. But I
Mhm.
just don't see the killer instinct that they used to have. So
Let,
we'll see what they can do heading forward.
I'll throw this in, and this may anger some Richmond fans, but I honestly believe this. I think the downfall of Richmond's system was bringing in Lynch because it cost a pretty penny to bring him in, and he changed what they were. As we said, in 17, it was Revolt and the Nat Club because they had a bunch of small forwards that were everywhere.
Oh
When
yeah,
Lynch came in, yes, they got a flag, but it changed their forward structure because Lynch is not a pressure player. Lynch is
And it
not a
screwed up
heavy
their
package.
salary cap.
I'm not going to go there. But again, their depth has been picked off because it's a lot like professional sports over here. When you have a great team, smaller clubs and clubs that don't have as much success are willing to
Yeah,
pay more to bring you in. And that's exactly what's happened with Richmond. And then Lynch coming, it's literally, it has been a buildup for Richmond. And again, their profile now is older. It is not the youthful, full of energy with a chip on their shoulder team that they were in
yeah,
17.
right,
19, they came into it again, chip on their shoulder because they lost that game in 18. So this is not the
sure,
same Richmond team. Are they good? Yes. Will they make the finals? Maybe. We'll have to see. Can they stay healthy? Can Dusty find that spot more forward, not as much in the midfield, where he can capitalize on his powers? If he
right.
can, Richmond is dangerous. If he can't,
Sure.
Richmond could be in trouble a little bit. We'll have to see. Again, long season, 22 games to play, but it's going to be fascinating to watch this Richmond team because I don't like jumping at shadows, but this is one potentially we definitely need to keep an eye on. So we go from that. I said it. The Pies Cats game was scintillating because the footy was
Ooh,
going
yes.
one to dun to dun to dun. I know it's only first game of the season. Was that the most exciting game of the round? Because I have a hard time arguing any other game besides that one.
Yeah, I mean, just based on the fact, not just because it was two elite teams and two flag contenders and the reigning premier, but again, 86,000 plus screaming at the G. It felt like a final. Everyone was saying it felt like a final, and it's just those are the types of scenes that you just it sends a chill down your spine just because it's hard hitting footy. It's fast paced. Everyone is just out of their seat, stuff full of pies, stuff full of beer. It's footy. It's back, and I think if I want to encourage someone, we always talk about this ourselves, of course, as American supporters. But if I want to introduce someone to footy, turn on Geelong Collingwood this past weekend. I mean, because that is as good as it gets in terms of just high scoring, the drama of the injuries, the drama of the back and forth, and Collingwood pulling it out of thin air again with an epic comeback. Because again, we saw that so many times last year. And again, I can't think of another team in recent memory that just did a whole 180 in terms of expectations. Under Nathan Buckley, they were a slog to watch towards the end of his tenure. Buckley's a legend. He was a great player. He was a great coach there for many years. But we know towards the end of his tenure there, 2020, 21, it was snooze inducing because it was such a defensive, pressure based style of play. But Craig McRae gave him a shot in the arm. Insert Essendon supplements joke here. Sorry, but I couldn't resist. But no, yeah, they got the shot in the arm that they needed, and again it came on the backs of the usual suspects, the Dacos brothers. And then you've got Degoe. Degoe's finally back and looking great. I mean, he's been such a drama queen over the last several years, whether it's off field stuff or inconsistency on field or just figuring out where to put him. But he played great. McStay is going to be a great addition, and I think some of their veteran players have really come on. So, and I think their Steel Side Bottom is probably going to have to retire pretty soon. We know Pendles is in the twilight of his career, but they are in very good shape overall as a club. They're a healthy club. And yeah, I think the sky's the limit for them this year, and I definitely think they'll be top four. So
Yeah, it'll be fascinating to keep an eye on this because again, Geelong is going to. I think Geelong is going to be fine again. The Tom Stewart injury will be one to keep an eye on, but they've got
yeah,
so much offense. I hope, like I said, I hope Hawkins isn't underdone. Cameron is absolutely one of the best players in the entire competition. And Collingwood again, they've basically said that they're going to go for it no matter what. And I
sure.
appreciate McRae's going for this. I appreciate they're taking the new style of footy. The man on the mark has really benefited styles like this.
Yeah,
It's a go offense. I appreciate it. The thing though is if they face a good defensive team, we'll have to see how that goes. Again, Collingwood's going to be
sure.
scary because again, they bring in Bobby Hill, they bring in they bring in McAdams. So there's a ton of things to be positive. And
Yeah,
again, the Magpie Army is showing out as much as
They
possible.
sure
So
are.
100% agree. We'll jump the last of my burning questions because I think this has been the topic of every single footy show that I have listened to that isn't the bounce. I love the bounce. I think it's fantastic. And I'm thankfully they stayed to the comedy and did not go into this. I'm going to say it, sir. I think the AFL has issues again with head high contact because the tribunal hand downs, as much as I understand that they're trying what they say they're trying to do, and I will say that again, as they say they're trying to do, these hand downs are, I'll be blunt, they are pathetic. They are pathetic.
Yeah,
They are
yeah,
not doing anything to stamp out these dog acts, as some would say, in the
sure.
game. And again, I am a diehard Swans fan. I can put my red hat on as much as the best, but I had an argument. Buddy is lucky. Buddy is
Very,
extremely
very.
lucky because Collins didn't get concussed. He passed his concussion test, but did not play because by the time the 20-minute mandatory was over, there was only 2 minutes left in that game. That's why Collins didn't return. He wasn't
Right.
hurt. It just didn't waste any time. The game was over. There was
Yeah.
no need to waste any more energy on there. Buddy should have
Right.
got two, at least, probably three,
Yeah. Yeah.
because he overruns the ball. Yes, he hits it, but he overruns the ball. His eyes are only on Collins and his elbow goes up. He probably deserves
Yeah.
two or
It's
three.
just it's so clumsy. And again,
Not
it's
even
right.
clumsy. It does almost look intentional because he eyes Collins the entire time. If you watch his eyes, and again, the
Yeah.
slow-mo makes it look worse because his eyes never even look at the ball. The ball hits him in his leg, on his
Yeah.
right leg, right around his shin, as he is making contact with Collins, meaning there was a way for him to play the ball, not
Yeah.
Collins in that play. He chose to bump. He's lucky. He is a lucky, lucky, lucky boy.
And
As
I think you again where they were on the field. It's right on the boundary. All
exactly.
Buddy has to do is tap it back in. There, he had a teammate in his eyesight. He doesn't have to lower the shoulder. He doesn't have to do anything. All he has to do is either pick up the pill himself, and if he can't do that, just tap it along.
Mhm.
And it's careless, it's sloppy, and it's just unwarranted. I think and yeah, you're right. And the frustrating thing is, and of course, the tribunal causes everyone to lose their mind. But look at the three main incidents on the weekend.
Mhm.
You've got Buddy. He's going to get a one match ban
Yep.
for
Collins,
against Sam
because
Cobb.
Collins has a heavy head. Let's just say it. Collins has a thick head. He's
Yeah.
he's he's got a head a cat. He's got a
Yeah.
head like a cat, a hard
And
head.
by the same token, Bailey Smith has a very punchable face. That doesn't mean that Ozzy Pickett gets
Which
an
is funny because he
excuse
never
to do what
really
he
hits.
did.
He never really hits his head. The majority of the contact
Yeah.
is in the shoulder. I get the D's fans' arguments. It's the fact that Cuzzy Pickett leaves his feet. He launches
And
into it,
no
and
and
there's
no
no
eye for the footy.
reason in that situation to play that play. And then my
Yeah.
favorite, my favorite response from many of the D's fans is look at the Patrick Cripps. And as I stated to a couple, Patrick Cripps, the reason
Yeah.
he got off was because of a technical error by the lawyers of the AFL. That is the
Yeah.
reason. He was suspended. He was suspended. He was suspended. One typographical error is the reason that Cripps did
It's
not
crazy.
get suspended. Blues fans, I love you. Cripps did not deserve the Brownlow. He should have been suspended, in my
Same.
personal
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
They need to
And
make
I think
this. They need to make this black and white. That is my one
absolutely.
thing.
And
Make a
again, like
decision.
you look at the Shane McAdam incident. The only reason he got reported straight to the tribunal was because Jacob Weir was concussed because of it. Now, thankfully he'll probably only miss a week, not 2 weeks, based on what I heard. He seemed like he was like fairly alert in the change rooms afterward, based on what I heard from
And the majority
GWS
of
post
contact was in the chest. It wasn't even in the
game.
head. That's the part that's again. It's one of those where technically, if you look at it, this is a pretty as legal as you can possibly get hit. It's just hard, so it looks
But
worse
like
because
after,
of the intensity.
yeah. Yeah, and with Kazi Pickett, I mean, like it wasn't just the launch point. It wasn't just the fact that he didn't have eyes for the footy. Baza had already kicked the footy, and then he
Mhm.
just gets hit straight into the collarbone area, and it was
Mhm.
just. And again, lucky he got straight back up. But either way, I mean, if Pickett was just a few centimeters higher, it would have been a completely different story. So I think yeah, I mean, Pickett should. I think he should have gotten three, maybe even four. But it's just Yeah, I mean, like again, he should know better. He should know that, with again, much like Buddy, they're such talented players. They really just don't need to put themselves in these kind of positions all the time. And McAdam, he's younger. He's a very aggressive guy in general. But I mean, even in that situation, he's got senior players at Adelaide who can tell him, mate, you just don't do that. And it was also just like, a kick out of the back line, just a standard kick out from after Adelaide scored a behind, and Jacob Weir marks it, and then he just gets king hit.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, yeah, it was just unwarranted, and I think McAdam, he'll probably get. I mean, if they're going to be consistent, they'll probably give him the same thing they gave Kazi. But given that Weir was concussed, he'll probably get 3 games. Who knows? So
I've
and that's the problem. Who knows? We need to know these things, and there is no. And of course, like this was, I mean, a few years ago when the MRO was entirely revamped, and it was just like one guy as opposed to like a whole panel, Michael Christian or whoever it
Yep,
was. I
that's
mean,
Michael
like
Christian.
everyone, yeah, everyone was saying like, "Oh, great! Now it's going to be way more streamlined. It's going to be easier to decode what action leads to what suspension." But if anything, it's made it even more confusing. So the one thing that's been good, and I know this isn't a match review thing. Did you notice there were no 50s given away for this? There were no
Yeah, but there
50s
there
on
was
the
there was there was a couple of dissents in that St. Kilda one, and my favorite is that that's not dissent. It's like
Oh, well,
I've
I mean,
made
I
I've
guess,
made this I've made this comment. It is pretty much dissent when you're going to point to the jumbotron and to the screen. You're pretty much telling the umpire you're an idiot. Look, you got it wrong. I mean, I understand it's an innocent thing. It may be an emotional thing, but it is one of those. I've
yeah,
never in my life in any sport that I have ever watched seen a referee go, you know what, player, you're right. I made the wrong call. Here's your call,
right.
and he changes it.
There's a big
Just
difference.
suck it up and take it. Okay. I
Yeah, well, there's a
understand
big
it's
difference in terms
frustrating.
of like, there's a big difference in terms of like, and I've said this before, just like, the ref isn't going to change his mind, but at the same time, like, doing a little please explain is not out of the spirit of the game. And there's a big difference between being like, come on, mate, what was that? To what the hell is wrong with you, you effing twat? Because we know that's not
or
cool.
pointing
You
or
know you can't
pointing at
swear
the
at an umpire,
screen.
but
The
it's,
pointing at the screen, I think, was the one that thing. But I've said this
uh,
I've said this a few times when it comes to sports over here, and I agree with this. It's called the superstar effect, and I mean this.
yeah,
Most of these leagues, I laugh when they say they're trying to get concussions out, and when they're trying to get concussions and head injuries out, because honestly, that is what they're going to say to a mid-level guy that nobody cares about.
sure.
It's a
Yeah,
superstar, like a Buddy Franklin, like a Patrick Cripps, like a Marcus Bontempelli, like a
sure.
Josh Dunkley. Those guys get the benefit of the doubt because they're the people that bring the people that put the butts in the seats and make the
Yeah.
money for the AFL. I've said
Oh
this.
yeah, it's very political in that
If you
way.
made it black and white, hit of the
Yeah.
head, 2 games automatically for a concussion for the severity, you start adding on games. If you
People were
did
saying
that,
I saw sorry to interrupt. I saw
it,
more than one person say that or at least float the idea of a sin bin. And I know there's never really been a sin bin in footy.
Pendlebury has thrown that out. Yep.
Would that really be a deterrent?
I don't
Not
think so.
sure.
I don't think it's as
Yeah.
much as people say because
Yeah.
all it'll do is it'll force coaches to be much more to put in almost like power play situations in the NHL. They're just going to sit back.
Right.
They're going to try to absorb as much pressure until that guy can come back. I don't think it's the deterrent is giving them games suspended and
Yeah.
not this MRO or I there is a time when my American brain does not like this challenge of a suspension. Like I'm so
And
used to the I'm so used to the NFL over here. The NFL hands down
sure.
4 game suspension. We don't hear random wide receiver
And that's
challenges. No,
entirely the commissioner's call, of course.
exactly. There is a part where my American brain doesn't make sense to this because I'm just like, take your hit. You got suspended. Just go. Just accept it. But you start getting into legalese and it takes it completely away from on the field
Sure.
and administrative
Sure.
things. And I just don't like it. Again, it's my American brain, Australians. I'm sorry, but there's part of me that's always going to go. I just don't understand it. Cop the whack, sit your 2, 3, 4 games and deal with it. But again, it's a different thing. I'm trying to understand it, but I just wish make it black and white. If you hit the head, you sit 3 games. If you hit the head
Sure.
and you
Yeah.
cause the guy a concussion, you sit 4 games. If you hit the guy, you knock him out, you cause blood, you get 5 games.
Sure.
Start making it to where it actually hurts them in their pocketbooks, and these guys will get it through their thick skulls and they will adjust. But if you
Yeah.
keep letting them get off because of who they are or technicalities like, well, he didn't get concussed, so we can't suspend him,
Yeah.
it's punish the action, not the result, and you will fix this until the AFL pulls their bootstraps up and actually starts suspending guys consistently for actions. This is
Right.
just going to continue, and it's only going to cause more kingies, all these people, and so many fans online to continue to pull their hair out because of how frustrating this is.
Yeah.
So,
And I think and let's be honest. Like you could kind of make an excuse for the inconsistencies. I mean, if this was still like 70s VFL, but we've got instant replay now. We can tell if a player has his eyes on the footy or if he's just trying to knock a bloke out. We can
mhm.
tell these things now. Again, like we have the benefit of being able to comb through this footage, as does the MRO. So I think that more than anything is and the inconsistency of the penalties applied as a result. It's like we have so much stuff that we can look at. And, a fan can make this snap judgment very quickly. It should not take days of an MRO figuring it out, plus possible appeals, plus, character references for players who are like, oh, he would never do this. It's just like, it's such a silly process. And I think I don't think there's any excuse for that again in the age of instant replay, but that's just my 2 cents.
The 15
Yeah.
year old in his 15-year-old in his basement with a laptop can probably make just as good a calls as some of these guys there. And again, I'm not trying to diss
I
Michael
mean, when I was
Christensen.
a
I
15
know
year
his
old, I
job
was
isn't
appalled,
easy,
but yeah,
but
I get
he is buggering this up because he's trying way too hard to make this complicated. It's such an easy thing. Just suspend
it.
him, cut this medium crap, just make it, hey, hit the head 2 freaking games and just deal with it. Go from there, make it black and
Yeah.
white. But it's just not going to happen anytime soon. I try not to argue with people, and when I do, I eventually finally go, fudge it. I'm done with this. I'm just over it. There's no way there are one-eyed fans that are going to see it their way and their way only. And I understand that and I respect it severely. So we've been going a long time. You and I could talk for days about this stuff. So we're gonna jump one question because we kind of already discussed it a little bit. And we're gonna go to my team of the week, which I do every round. And I'm
Mhm.
interested to see what you think about this, Rick. As I go through the statistics a little bit, I watch most of the games, and I pick my team of the week. I basically pick a starting 22, and I go 6 defenders, 5 midfielders, a ruck, 6 forwards, and then our 4 bench players that we have nowadays. I don't do a sub because
Sure.
I'm not in the mood to deal with that. And then my bench is always a defender, a ruckman, a midfielder, and a forward. So here is my round one team of the week, which I will put out again on Instagram. Keep an eye on it for very, very soon. In the defending core, I tell many people I stick with this thing. I want impact. I want game impact. So if you kick a goal as a defender, you're going to have a really good shot of getting on my team of the week. So starting with the defenders, Carlton, Sam Doherty. You kick an over 50-meter goal and you have a ton of disposals in this game. Hard not to put him in there. Geelong, Zach Tui, as we said, 2 goals.
Yes.
He shifted a little bit forward, but he primarily played on the defensive side of this game. Daniel Rich from
Both
the
goals
Brisbane.
were in the first quarter too.
Exactly. Daniel Rich from the Brisbane Lions again. His mighty left boot is always a danger outside of 50. I think he's in the twilight of his career, but another great game.
Sure.
Jake Lloyd kicking a goal for the Sydney Swans again. The ever moving center, the kind of halfback flanker for the Sydney Swans. Blake
Right.
Hardwick from the Hawthorn Hawks, and then Essendon's Mason Redmond putting in 2 goals for the Bombers. Jumping
Redmond
into
was
the
great.
ruck, hard not to say it, though they did have him and Brody Grundy. Max Gawn from the Melbourne Demons had an incredible game this round. He gets the
Yes,
ruck
he did.
spots. Going to the midfield, you can't keep him out. 3 goals, Jordan DeGoey of the Collingwood Magpies. Norse Luke Davies Uniacke showing
LDU.
why he was as good as he is. I think he's only going to grow under Clarko. It'll be fascinating to watch that. Western Bulldogs Tom Liberatore kicking a goal in this game again. The unsung hero of the midfielders of the Western Bulldogs making an impact on the scoreboard. Got to give you a tip. GWS's Tom Green again. The young man is absolutely an incredible midfielder. Hard to deny that this guy is not one of the up and coming great midfielders of the competition. And you mentioned him in our St. Kilda discussion, Mason Wood, with a couple of gorgeous
Oh yeah.
snap goals for the St. Kilda Saints in their win against Fremantle. Going to the forwards, you kick 6 goals, you can't not get in. Norse Nick Larkey, Melbourne's Kazi Pickett and Ben Brown, both with 4 goals in this game.
Mm.
Absolutely fantastic. GWS's Toby Green also with 4, and Essendon's Archie Perkins finding a way to kick 3 goals. The young man absolutely electric for the Bombers in the big win over the Saints, over the Hawks. My apologies. Going to the bench, as you said, Nick Hayes, the defender from GWS, slipping up and kicking a goal. Got to give you a tip of the cap. For the Rock, the Western Bulldogs, Tim English, again, the ever ready Ruckman. Midfielder is Brisbane's Zach Bailey, and forwards, Josh Rochelle of the Adelaide Crows will round out the bench for my team of the week. I got to say, Rick, a ton of goals kicked this round, so it was very easy to help me out on this.
Oh yeah.
But an impressive team may not be the most scary team in the world, but a team that definitely can make an impact when they want to.
Oh, no question. And yeah, that's a pretty impressive list. So, but most importantly, who would be your coach of the round?
Hard not to say. I've never done a coach of the round, but I'll give it to him. I'll give
Okay.
Clarko. I think he really got his guys up and going. I'll give Clarko the tip there with very
All
close
right.
second. Ross the boss. I think what he
Yeah.
did with 14 guys out was really, really hard to argue. But Clarko got that Norse team up and about, and the ability to get Hugh Greenwood to jump into the ruck and still be able to
Yeah.
win contested clearance
Yes.
over
I
Sean Darcy of over
yeah.
no, they were playing Nick Nat Nui of the West Coast Eagles, and
Mm.
some of their young talls was rather impressive. So we'll give Clarko the tip on that one. So we jump to it, sir. The favorite part. We may be early in the week, but we'll do it. We got to tip round 2. We got to
Yes, we
see
do.
who
I'm excited.
are going to win some chocolates. So right off the bat, Carlton gets to do it again as Carlton takes on the Cats at
Yes, that is
at the
going to be
MCG. Who do you got in this one?
yes, I was going to say, yeah, it's going to be MCG, so home game for Carlton. I mean, I definitely think not just on the back of round one, but either way, Geelong's going to be motivated. Carlton's going to be motivated as well, but I still don't see the Cats losing this one. I definitely don't see them starting 0-2 against anyone this year. So I'm tipping Geelong by 6 goals.
This is a fascinating one because I worried can Coach Scott get the Geelong defense organ structured enough without Tom Stewart? I think they can.
Yeah,
I'm interested to see how this defense goes up against Tom Hawkins, Jeremy Cameron, Tyson Stengel. I agree with you. I
yeah,
think the Cats bounce back, but I think Carlton is in this. I think they've got just enough talent. They're gonna feel a little aggrieved after falling short against Richmond. So I think Carlton is in this. I think the Cats just win this one by only a couple of goals. I think this is a cracker on a
yeah.
Thursday night. We travel west in Australia up to the Gabba as the D's come into town to face the Brisbane Lions. The Lions licking their wounds after the Port Adelaide Power. I'm going to tip the
Mm.
D's in this one because the D's just seem to have the wood over the Lions, but I think the Lions home cooking is going to make this game a little bit closer than some are thinking, especially after the drubbing they took from Port. I'm going to tip Melbourne, but Brisbane is in this one. I'm going to be
I
interested to see how
agree.
this one
I
goes.
agree. Yeah, no, I'm tipping Melbourne by only 2 goals here. I do think again it's not going to get much praise from the Victorian supporters, but the Gabba is a tough place to play, especially when the Lions are really doing great, which they have been the last few years. So yeah, I think they'll definitely take that and run with it. And again, yes, Melbourne's bringing back that quartet that we talked about, and it'll be great to see Stephen May back, that's for sure. But I still don't see the D's dropping this one. I think they'll win by a couple goals.
All right, we go to it. This is almost disrespectful of this game. This is the first game on Saturday for the Aussies. Friday night for us, sir. 7:45 in California time. Collingwood v Port. MCG. This is tasty. What you're calling this one? I'm
Yes.
interested to hear this one.
Oh yeah, I think the midfield battle is going to be absolute dynamite in this one. Like Rosie, Butters, Powell Pepper, Bogue, all those guys against the Daghosses, Steel Side Bottom, Pendlebury. That is going to be a
Mitchell.
treat to watch. I definitely think I'm going to tip the Pies just because it's at the MCG, but I think this might be the closest one of the round. I'm tipping the Pies in another close win, this time by only 4 points.
This is game of the round for me. This is absolutely
100%. And
scintillating
again, you're
after.
right. It's 9:45 p.m. for you, 7:45 for me.
Yep.
So
This
perfect
is
time for
this is
that.
a scintillating one.
Oh
Unfortunately,
yeah.
I think I have a couple of sample W games that I was going to watch at that time. I may
Mhm.
want to watch this one a little bit later, so we'll have to see.
Well,
I'm
just
gonna
live stream one during the commercial breaks. It's not that hard.
I'm gonna tip the Pies in this one, but there's something about this that I think this is the measuring stick whether Collingwood is legit or not, because Port Adelaide really showed me something in
Yeah.
this one. I think I take a little bit of grain of salt with Collingwood because Stewart was out, which I think threw the structure of Geelong's defense off. So if Port
Oh
Adelaide
yeah.
doesn't have any injuries, this is going to be more of the test on whether Collingwood is legit when it
And by
comes
the
to it.
same token, I think if Port wants to show that they're top eight or even top four, how good would it be to upset the Pies on the
At the
road at the
G. At the G2, which is their sacred ground. So it'll be fascinating to see. I'll tip the
yeah.
Pies by a couple of goals here, but I think Port is in this all the way to the end. We jump to it. The next game will be the Adelaide Crows at home at the Adelaide Oval, hosting the Richmond Tigers. Again, Tigers coming off that draw. Adelaide Crows. I'm gonna tip the Tigers in this one, but I'm not super confident because the Crows tend to play better at home.
Yeah, I think this one could go either way as well. I reckon the Crows, but again, I think it will be very close. And given what we saw in round one, again, of course, we know GWS ran away with it in the second half, but Adelaide, has they've been able to pull out some low scoring ones in years past. And yeah, and given that Richmond struggled to score in round one, if they both struggle to score, I think Adelaide actually has the advantage there, just because. Yeah, Ray Shelley was a bright spot. If Rankin can kick straight, could have been a whole other ballgame against the Giants. So I like Adelaide's forward line actually more than Richmond, even with Revolt and Lynch. Now, again, I do think Lynch will bag a few at least, but it's just again, I don't have much confidence in Richmond. In terms of them being able to really be as gritty and as tough and as high scoring as they've been in the past. So I'm
Yeah.
tipping Adelaide, but only by a goal.
This is a fascinating one. Like I said, if this was at the MCG, I'd be a little bit more confident in Richmond because I think they play
Sure,
the G a
sure,
lot better. But Adelaide Oval, I'm like I said, I think Richmond just gets it because can Fogarty, Walker, Rankin, and Rochelle work? That'll be the biggest question. Who does Grimes
yeah,
take? How does that go? Noah Balta will probably take whoever Grimes doesn't take, so it'll be fascinating. The matchups will be fun in the Adelaide forward line because there could be some
yeah.
scintillating ones, and then who takes who takes Lynch? Who takes Rewalt? Who takes Dusty Martin? Could
Mm,
That's going to be, and then the ruck battle. Nank is always a great ruckman, and O'Reilly has been that enigma for the Crows. He's never been that dominant ruckman for his size and ability. Nank is
yeah.
that physical kind of get in your tail, but is still pretty athletic. So I think this could be make or break in the ruck battle, which I think Richmond has a little bit more experience there. So that's why I'm going to go with
They
Richmond.
probably
But
do. Yeah.
again, it's going to be a belter. And then the interesting cup for me, Western Bulldogs at home at Marvel Stadium versus Ross the Boss's St. Kilda Saints.
Yeah, I think again, what a difference round one makes. I think I mean, I don't think even even heading into the season, I don't think the doggies would blow out the Saints. But I mean, after the round one results for both teams, again, St. Kilda playing way more aggressively, and the doggies having a ton of concerns, both with talented players underachieving and with injuries. So I'm tipping the Saints here. I think. I mean, it's not really a home game for anyone because they both play at Marvel a lot. But I think the doggies are technically the home team, but I think the Saints will win by 3 goals here. I think, again, it's going to be interesting to see how many of their injured players can get back in. And of course, again, the doggies lose Waitman, they lose Lob, and what's most concerning, the other tall guys. And again, we were talking how the doggies played way too tall, but even the tall guys that aren't hurt, Aaron Naughton, Jamari Ugle-Hagan, 2 goals apiece, or excuse me, 2 goals combined last week. So, and I mentioned on our draftee chat, I think Ugle-Hagan has copped some unfair criticism. Yes, he's a highly touted recruit, but I think he's got potential. But can he really blow anyone away at this point? I still don't think he's yet to have that mind blowing game that people are like, yes, this is why he was a top 5 pick. This is why the doggies are so high. So I'm tipping the Saints again by 3 goals.
Jamal Hagan, unfortunately, I'm going to say this and some doggies fans may get angry. I think Aaron Naughton is actually stifling Ugle Hagan's growth because Naughton is that guy. And he's kind of taking space because he flies at everything. He doesn't let Ugle Hagan have his space to be able to lead and use his length and athleticism a lot. I'm gonna agree with you only because I think Liam Jones is a loss. They brought Liam Jones in to stabilize that
Yeah,
defensive core, and boom, first game he's out again. The
right.
Saints, I think they're gonna grit and grind. They're gonna wear on this team. There is no pressure. The Bulldogs allow the ball to get out of their defensive into their defense from their forward to their defense way too easy. I think Ross the Boss will have them snarling. I think the Saints pick this one up, which is surprising to say. The doggies could be 0-2 after round 2. We jump out off this stadium, and I look at my thing here, and if you would have told me at the start of the year that I would be saying that North Melbourne is 8th on the ladder, playing Fremantle, who's 14th on the ladder, I'd have told you were crazy. But
Oh
that's
yeah,
round 2 for you when you get some upsets. So Fremantle at home at Optus against North Melbourne. I'm gonna go against my better judgment for the most part. I'm gonna tip Fremantle. They just tend to play better at home. I think Longmuir is going to
yeah,
kick him in
yeah.
the tail this weekend. I think he's going to have him up and about. I'm interested to see can Sean Darcy dominate the mid that what didn't happen against the Saints. I think will definitely change it. I'm going to tip Fremantle, but I think the Roos are in this. I think this comes down to the fourth quarter.
I'm thinking very similarly. Yeah, I think yeah, Frio will probably pull away. I'll tip them by 4 goals. But yeah, no, like the Ruse, they know they can compete now. I mean, obviously over the summer, they're saying all the right things under Clarko, and people are like, oh yeah, sure, let's just wait. I mean, I've praised them a lot, but I still don't think they're ready to fly over to Perth and beat the Dockers. So yeah, I do think Frio is going to pull this one out. I don't see them starting 0-2. I think Longmuir is really going to push everyone very hard at training this week. So yeah, I've got the Dockers bouncing back, and they should pull away in the fourth, I reckon.
All
So
right,
yeah, we're very similar minds there.
Sydney goes back home to the SCG after that fun one of the Gold Coast hosting the Hawks. I'm not being red-hatted Donnie here. I think this could get ugly. I think
It could.
if the Swans play the performance that they did against Gold Coast in a little bit of cooler temperatures, the SCG with a Hawks team that got absolutely demolished by an Essendon team that I don't think is at the Swans level. Again, no disrespect to the
Right.
Essendon. I think the Swans are just a step ahead of them. This
They
could get
are. Yeah.
ugly and ugly quickly if the Hawks can't get some goals on the board because Sydney's pressure, their manic attack. Yes, they're without Buddy, but I think Logan McDonald has a breakout game. So I think the
Yeah.
Swans want this could be Swans big. I don't want it to be, but I think this is Swans big.
Yeah, I'd say Swans by 30 points, especially since they're at home. Yeah, and again, Hawthorne, that they showed flashes. That they had a couple of guys who were really looking solid, but again, that's buried beneath an avalanche of Bombers goals in the second half. So yeah, it's going to be some tough sledding for the Hawks. We already talked about that, but yeah, I definitely see Sydney winning this one fairly big.
Yeah, all right. Bombers at home, Marvel Stadium against the Gold Coast Suns. Can the Gold Coast bounce back after a kind of insipid performance against the Swans? And can Essendon back it up? What are your thoughts?
I actually see the Suns bouncing back here. I think the Bombers. I think that they typically play very well at Marvel, but and this could come down to the wire and go either way. But I do think the Suns, they've got Ben King back, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm.
They've definitely I think Stewie Dew has them much more focused. He's definitely an intense guy and someone who can rally the troops there. And of course, they know, the expectations for the Suns to finally break through to finals this year. I definitely think they'll be way more competitive this week, and they should make just enough plays. But again, I think it'll be close. I've only got them by a goal over the Dons. But I don't think this will be super high scoring either. I don't think we'll see the Bombers, score 100 plus every week this year. I just don't think at least not until Stringer and some of their other big targets are back. I think I don't think they can really dominate a game just with Tipham Woody, just with Draper and Wiedemann up front. So they'll have their moments for sure, but I do see Gold Coast getting back on the right track this week.
See, and I'm one of those. I know this is really early in the season, but I'm gonna go off momentum. I'm gonna tip the Bombers because Gold Coast, for some weird reason, at Marvel Stadium, sometimes they play great, sometimes they don't. It all just depends. And I think they got a lot of air punched out of them by that Swans performance, and a lot of people are questioning them. I think Stewie Do will I think he'll have them up right. I think that the Suns will have a little bit better performance. And again, the Swans
Yeah,
are such a good side. I don't really think this was a bad performance by Gold Coast. I just think they ran into a Swans team that were tired of hearing the Suns are your bogey team, the Suns are your bogey team, the Suns are your
sure.
bogey team. And they came out rip roaring. And I don't think the Suns were ready for it. And they got blitzed early, which the Swans have done to several teams. Can Essendon do that? Because if Essendon can blitz Gold Coast early, then doubt creeps in. And when doubt creeps in, then skill errors start happening. Wits needs to dominate the ruck. If Wits can dominate the ruck
He
and get
can.
Rowell and
He
Tuke
might.
Miller and Noah
Yeah.
Anderson first to the footy, then the Suns have an advantage. But
Yeah.
Draper is this enigma. He finds ways to do things. Sometimes when he faces great ones, he can step up. I'm going to have the Dons winning this one, but I think it's super close. I think this one comes down
Yeah.
again. Fourth quarter, a lot of really good matchups this week. A couple of, but this one I'm intrigued by because this
Yeah.
is the litmus test. Can the Suns win one? They should, but there's a little
Right.
bit of doubt. Could doubt be creeping in?
I think that's the thing, like both teams are chronically inconsistent. Let's admit it.
Hmm.
Whether or not, even before Brad Scott, we never knew which Don's team was going to show up. And Stewie Dew has done a really good job overall with the Suns. It's a very tough job. We all know this. But I mean, they've definitely had moments where they're so close to breaking through, but they get one or two injuries at the wrong time, or they drop a game to a bottom four side they just should win. So you're right. I think this is a very intriguing matchup that's really going to fly under the radar this round. So
Yeah, it'll be fascinating. And then the final game of the round sees the West Coast Eagles return back to the nest of Optus Stadium with I think, a very up and about GWS Giants team coming into Optus. And if the Eagles' performance was anything to go off in North Melbourne, I know usually Optus Stadium is where they tend to play better, but I think Kingsley tapped into something in this game. And I think
yeah,
the Eagles, it's kind of the same thing with the last one. There's a lot of doubt in the Eagles camp, and there's a lot of positivity in GWS's camp. I'm going to tip the Giants in this one, but I
yes.
think the experience of the Eagles keeps them in it. I think in the fourth quarter, that talent and Toby Green has a monster. And if he has a monster, GWS wins this one.
Yeah, I've got the Giants winning by probably a little more than they did last week. I'd say I've got Giants by 22 points. Yeah, I do think, West Coast, Liam Ryan did have 3 goals last week. They do have, Oscar Allen had that cringe-worthy miss from, 10 meters away, but he's a big target. We know what he can do. Barras, McGovern, all those guys, like they're veterans. We know what they can do. And I think, there's still plenty of talent on that list. Just they just haven't been able to get across the finish line and get enough W's in the last few years. So yeah, unfortunately, Eagles are just in that no man's land where yeah, they'll be pretty competitive if they're healthy. Big if they're healthy, but they just don't have the knockout punch at this time. So I think, yeah, I can see the Giants getting off to a 2-0 start, not just based on the momentum from last week, but just because after round one, There's no nerves. Everyone's more comfortable with Kingsley's system. And again, you did have some injuries, but you've got some players in the Rezzies that are really knocking on that door, like Padman, who's the rookie that everyone is salivating over. So I reckon the Giants will get it done, and then I'll be intrigued to see what we can do to build upon that 2-0 start. So yeah, hopefully they can come through on the road.
That right, Rick. This is good. That's it. That's the last of the 9 games in round two. I'm
It is.
super intrigued because there's some dandies there that I cannot wait. That Collingwood
Sure.
Port Adelaide game is going to be absolutely scrumptious. So before I end this episode, I have to do a quick shout out. I was talking to Rick before this episode. If you see over my right shoulder, just behind me, is a very, very cool Guernsey that I had sent to me from a fan from New South Wales, a massive Richmond Tigers fan. D, I wanted to give you a shout out. You and your father sent me this absolutely gorgeous navy footy Guernsey. I wanted to put it up the show. And I wanted to put this out there for people that watch this episode. If you have a footy Guernsey from your local club or from your state league club, please get in contact with me. I'd love to be able to display more Guernseys on my chair right there as background to be able to show off my love of the game of footy. I have my Ellenbrook Eels that I got sent from a Perth Football League team as well, from a coach that I've had mentor me. So I wanted to give him a shout out as well, because I have had those in a couple of episodes. So a huge thank you to Dee for sending for her father for sending that to me. I genuinely appreciate the kindness to send me a package 12,000 kilometers away. So I had to do that before we ended the episode. Rick, genuinely appreciate it. It's always great talking footy. You and I can go forever. So sometimes we got to cut it short, but it's always fascinating. Thank you, Rick, for joining me.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
Awesome,
Cheers.
awesome. Well, you stay enjoying your trip in Mexico, and that will do it for us here. Ladies and gentlemen, round one is done. Round two is close. Keep an eye out. Again, state league reviews are coming up as well. So keep an eye out. More footy to come, and we'll be back again very, very soon.
Here's the song. Arms in the air.